Israel caught off guard after the largest and deadliest escalation of violence in decades.
It began Saturday morning.
Israel's war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip has gone over the 200-day mark, and it is the deadliest violence we've seen.
Following Hamas' attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, Israel and Hamas launched into a deadly conflict. The world watched the events unfold through photos posted on social media and news websites. This photo was published on several platforms. But it's also here. This is one of many photos that shows up on Adobe stock images when you type in Palestine Gaza. The photo is captioned, "Homeless little girl walking in destroyed city that was bombed by the enemy, and she's looking for shelter," by an Iranian visual effect artist, Messam Azaneshin. This is not a real photo. It is partially generated by AI. However, except for one photo that is labeled as generated with AI, none of these photos is citing the use of AI in the photo production process. Photo editor Dario Veréb from New Journal of Zurich published an article reporting image agencies are selling artificial generated images of the war in the Middle East without labeling them as fakes in November 21st, 2023.
What we also realized when writing the article, one of the reasons why some images are labeled AI and some images aren't, is that it's not very clear to say how much of an image has to be AI and how much of the image has to be kind of manipulated afterwards by someone in order for it to be labeled either as AI or an actual photograph. So in this case, what this artist was doing is he would generate certain elements of his pictures and then composite them together in Photoshop. So that's why some of these images weren't labeled as AI.
Adobe specifically included a chapter called Generative AI Content in the Stock Contributor User Guide, last updated on March 28, 2024. Contributors need to label their images as generative AI when the use of generative AI tools in Photoshop or Illustrator changed, augmented, or added a new primary subject of an image. This means that the contributors are responsible for citing AI-generated content. Adobe Stock does not constantly check if images posted on their platforms are labeled correctly.
Those AI images that we talked about in the article, they weren't really making things up to the point where they were reinventing the war. They were just kind of overly saturated renditions of the real life. And so what to me was also a little open at the end of this article is what's the real purpose of AI-generated images?
Outside of Israel and Palestine, photos have been used to visually depict human suffering and struggling. In the past year, 2 projects have used AI-generated photos to report on places journalists deemed inaccessible. Photojournalist Michael Christopher Brown used AI to depict struggle in Cuba and why Cubans crossed the 90 miles of ocean separating Havana from Florida. For over 25 years, Michael Christopher Brown kept a list of subjects he desired to document, though he was unable to, mainly due to access. While working in Cuba from 2014 to 2016, he added more subjects to the list, including the story of 90 Miles, with the assumption they would never likely be created.
The hope is that we see a way to sort of trigger our imaginations in new ways and to share stories in new ways to just keep them alive, if anything.
War conflict zones can be dangerous, which makes it challenging for foreign correspondents to report on them. The Committee to Protect Journalists reported that of the 78 journalists killed in 2023, 62 of them died in Israel or occupied Palestinian territory. CPJ recorded as of May 3, 2024, that 97 journalists and media workers have been killed and 25 have been arrested since October 7 in the conflict between Israel and Hamas.
But is protecting reporter safety worth the potential inaccuracies or misinformation that can stem from AI-generated or altered photos?
It's been the reality of reporting forever that some places are too dangerous, some places take risk. That's just the way it is. AI is not a solution to that. No way.
That was Matthew Abbott. He's a photojournalist based in Australia. Last year, Maurice Blackburn lawyers published a project called Exhibit AI, which used testimonies from refugees and immigrants being kept in Australian offshore processing centers. The group entered the testimonies into AI software to create photos depicting the centers. Abbott, who is reported on one of the locations of the centers, said that he doesn't think that any of the AI-generated photos bear any resemblance to the situations he's seen on the island.
Because just from someone who's been there and experienced this, the situation is so much more nuanced than what those images show. They are so shallow actually in their depth because there's nothing to it.
However, Brown said he uses AI-generated imagery of Cuba in an interactive way and tries to expand past their traditional means of telling visual stories.
Yeah, I just see it purely as it's a new way to tell stories. It's not photography. It's not photojournalism. It's just storytelling.
His work is very strong example in my view of he's created a version of reality that is total bullshit, and is trying to pass it off as some kind of truth, and that I find is actually pretty disgraceful.
Abbott is a vocal critic of using AI to generate photos depicting conflict.
But the problem I have is with them trying to trick an audience into that emotional reaction that they have when they think they're looking at what appears to be a real photograph. It's trickery, it's unethical. And just by labeling a fake image as an AI image I don't think is going to solve that problem.
So if I hire a photojournalist, I get in contact with a person and I know where that person is going, and the person can actually give me their sources for the story that they're working on. So they can tell me, I've been to this place and I've visited that person. I took a portrait of that person and now that's the story. Whereas a photo artist who works with AI, he might be able to say, well, the original image I took there and then. But everything that happens with AI is you're basically feeding material into a black box and you lose a lot of transparency. So as a photojournalist, what's become much more valuable now is the transparency that your work can offer to a news outlet. Now it's really the journey to the image that is part of the image, which also helps us verify the image and tell the story.
The Associated Press guidelines for AI state that journalists should only use AI-generated images when reporting about AI. The National Press Photographers Association's Code of Ethics says that the use of AI-generative tools to create, add, remove, expand, or alter images or videos in any way is expressly prohibited.
As AI's prevalence increases, governments from across the world are racing to understand its effects on citizens and regulate its capabilities. The International Association of Privacy Professionals, a not-for-profit organization that works to define and improve the global privacy community, tracks AI legislation and regulation. The IAPP records that governments of at least 40 countries, shown here in red, have developed some form of government regulation for AI. U.S. President Joe Biden issued an executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence on October 30th, 2023. The executive order creates general standards for AI safety and security and protecting Americans' privacy. Several bills related to AI are in development in the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate. On November 8, 2023, the House Subcommittee on Cybersecurity, Information Technology, and Government Innovation called 4 AI experts to testify about AI-generated images. Munir Abrahim, who is the Vice President of Public Affairs and Impact at an image verification company called TruePic, as well as a lecturer at Columbia University, said he served as a Foreign Service officer with the State Department and was posted at the U.S. Embassy in Damascus during the start of the Arab Spring. He said he watched as citizens and photojournalists risked their lives to take and share photos of conflicts. But now, people are questioning if real photos from conflicts were generated using AI.
I saw similar images from conflict zones around the world enter into the UN Security Council, but regularly undermined by countries' critics and bad actors that wanted to undermine reality by simply claiming those images were fake. Today, that strategy, as the Congresswoman noted, is referred to as the liar's dividend, and it is highly effective. Simply claiming user-generated content is fake. Government, business, and people all rely on what we see and hear online to make decisions. We need transparency and authenticity in that content to make accurate decisions.
Photojournalists like Abbott say they are concerned that the public will lose sensitivity to real images.
By using these images by creating these images these fake images to suit their agenda of this organization, they are sort of misleading people to see these as actual photographs when they're not, and this undermines, in my view, their credibility, and it undermines people's, people are not going to have the same response to, that's not just on their responsibility, but AI will mean that people will not have the same kind of response anymore to photographs, that they won't be able to trust photographs in the same way that they once did.
David Doerman is a professor and the former director of the Artificial Intelligence Institute at the State University of New York at Buffalo. He told the House Subcommittee that monitoring AI is becoming increasingly difficult.
Every time we release a tool that detects this, our adversaries can use AI to cover up that trace evidence. So no, that's why I said in my opening statement that detection and trying to pull this stuff down is no longer a solution. We need to have a much bigger solution.
Doerman said tech companies must work with Congress to detect and eliminate false information on their platforms, and Congress should provide funding to fight against AI misuse. Researchers should continue to analyze AI and develop new technology, and ultimately, the U.S. should increase public awareness about AI through digital literacy programs.
Fred Richin, Dean Emeritus for the International Center for Photography, believes that while AI's use in photojournalism and photography requires legislative regulation, the introduction of AI tools will facilitate necessary innovations in the field.
Photography itself is going to expand with artificial intelligence doing what it does, and the arts in general can expand because artificial intelligence could do certain things faster and better than humans can do. So then what do humans do? And so I think it's an opportunity for photographers to become even more explicitly subjective, innovative in terms of what they do. So it's both an enormous challenge and opportunity at the same time.
Richin, alongside a group of developers, founded and created the Four Corners Project, a photo authentication website. Four Corners was started with the aim of increasing contextualization of photographs, in turn making it more difficult for said images to be used, manipulated, or accused unfairly by others. The website allows users to upload photos and embed them with valuable information about the image, helping protect the integrity of both the photographer and the image. We decided to use Messam Azarneshin's widely used, partially AI-generated image to demonstrate the important context that Four Corners allows photojournalists to employ. Each corner of the image contains embedded information to provide more context. The upper left-hand corner of the image contains other images related to yours. We provided an example of a partially AI-generated image that is listed on Adobe stock alongside Azarneshin's when users search Gaza. The key difference between the two, and the important context that Four Corners helps users provide, is that the user who uploaded the image followed Adobe's guidelines surrounding AI generative content and marked the photo as generated by AI, which Azarneshin did not, and Adobe allowed. The upper right-hand corner of the image contains links to any supplementary information that may help the audience understand the image more broadly. We included links to Dario Veréb's article detailing the relationship between AI-generated content creators and photography hosting websites, as well as official documents from multiple international government agencies making use of Azarnesyan's war-inspired, AI-generated content in discussions of real-world conflicts. The bottom left corner of the photo contains a space for the user to provide any necessary or interesting background on the creation or implications of the photo. We decided to provide the audience with a brief summary of Adobe's use of Azarnesyan's photos. The bottom right-hand corner of the image contains possibly the most important context the photographer can provide: authorship, licensing, and code of ethics. We decided to provide the audience with Azarnesyan's original title. However, we made it clear that the photo was made using AI tools. Four Corners provides users with multiple different pre-written codes of ethics depending on what they decide the image will be used for. For photojournalists, Four Corners Code of Ethics explicitly states that photojournalists do not add or subtract elements to or from their photographs, a direct contradiction of Azarnesyan's use of the photo. Azarnesyan never explicitly describes himself as a photojournalist, merely a visual artist. However, according to our group's Code of Ethics, Azarnesyan still disclosed that the photo was created with the use of AI tools, as his distribution of the photos on Adobe Stock and other websites contributes to the narrative and discussion surrounding newsworthy events and conflicts involving human suffering.
Journalists and visual artists are using AI to generate images of conflict. Some say that it is a tool that could be used to expand the boundaries of visual storytelling. It gives access to events that otherwise would not have been reported on and keeps the stories alive in public discourse.
Others argue that AI-generated images should never be used in journalism. They say AI-generated imagery is fake and does not provide an accurate understanding of the conflicts. We are using the Potter box to solve our overall ethical dilemma. Is it ethical to use AI-generated or altered images to report on human struggle?
Our core values are accuracy in reporting, showing transparency in coverage, and maintaining readers and the public's trust. We should not publish images that look real when they have been created by AI. These images may exaggerate or not accurately show conflict. AI-generated images undermine the public's trust in real images taken by photojournalists on the ground.
Journalists can uphold accuracy and transparency by fact-checking image sources and clearly acknowledging when AI is used. Some visual artists say that using AI to generate imagery of conflict is a form of artistic experimentation and pushing the limits of visual storytelling. Civilians' lives are not experiments. Whether you are a photojournalist or not, when you create and distribute imagery that depicts conflict, you are contributing to the news cycle. Applying the veil of ignorance, visual storytellers should be on the ground to accurately provide the necessary context and understand what the real-life subjects of photos are going through.
Our loyalties prioritize the audience and the communities we serve as photojournalists, as we believe the spread of misinformation through AI-generated visual content is damaging and harmful to the greater community. Our loyalties also stand with our employers and self, as we aim to maintain the integrity of our organization and our own work.
Humans should report on human struggle.